It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design.
Welcome, everyone. Let's go around the horn, say hello, and introduce yourselves.
I'm Peter Lawrence.
Sorry. So here's the thing, guys. There were Skittles at the front desk.
Yeah.
And I love Skittles. So as you were introducing us, Kyle, I just put a bunch of Skittles in my mouth. I am Chad Jettner.
And I am Ben Story.
All right. And I'm Kyle Bacher. And today we're going to talk about prep and preview and the look ahead at AWS reInvent, which is coming up in early December. You guys were at the conference. Chad and Ben, you were at the conference last year, and we did a recap after that. So now we're going to do a pre-cap.
I like the preview.
Yep.
Get everybody ready. You know, it's from a conference standpoint, it is probably one of the best conferences I've ever been to. So hopefully our tips and tricks will help you really have an enjoyable time at reInvent to get the most out of it.
Yeah, and honestly, like, we should have done this a month ago. Well, actually, when they announced, right? The biggest thing that I saw when we signed up to go, last year was my first year there ever, right? And we got the list of sessions, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get to this over the weekend. That is a bad idea. The minute you sign up, you should sign up for all your sessions right away, because everything cool fills up super, super fast. So
yeah, and with that though, just to kind of take a step back for when you do register and just watch your emails for when those sessions do come live. And by now, I do think by the time this recording gets out, most of the sessions are probably out for you to register. I would say get registered, as soon as you can, and even look at some of the sessions that you may want to look at is maybe trying to go to the ones that are not going to be recorded, just from a session standpoint, because you can always go back to the on-demand and watch sessions that are going to be recorded just to try to make the most out of your experience.
How do you know, though, if it's being recorded or not?
Well, I think that there's a lot of sessions like at the expo hall that I think they're called like lightning talks, that might be 15, 20-minute presentations from various people. I went to a lot of those on the partner side last year, and I was able to get a lot out of various little 15-minute partner presentations that were just at the AWS partner booth. So, they're not always at the expo, but there is some that are and aren't. But, I think before we get too deep into it, I think, once you get registered, you probably have your hotel done already. So, Chad, I think it'd be nice to kind of walk through some of the things that we did and maybe some lessons learned from when we first got to Vegas last year. Because I think one of the biggest things that I thought worked really well for us is right when we got off the plane, they had a place for you to check in and get your reInvent badge. Yep. Because the line wasn't that long at the airport as various planes and everything is coming into the airport. Because I think if you wait and try to get your badge at one of the hotels, the lines were just tremendously long. There's 20,000 people coming to these events. So, I think that would be kind of my first tip, is to get checked in, get your badge right when you get off the plane before you even get to your hotel. I don't know, Chad, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, I would also say, so if you care about your badge, like if your badge is a memento, upload your profile pic. So they have a whole website where you can upload your profile pic, register everything. Otherwise, they're going to take a picture of you as you get off the plane. You're going to look horrible. So I did that. I uploaded my profile pic. I got my badge. Like literally, they just printed it out. They took your ID. They printed it out. Before we got our luggage, we had our badge, right? And nice. It was super slick. And then I did go, like Ben's saying, I did go to the event center the next day, that same morning, because you get your badge and then you have your night. And then you go in the first thing in the morning to the event center, and that's where they have like you get your hoodie and you get your little swag bag from Amazon. And that center, I mean, it was like trying to get into a Vikings game. Like there was that many people there. Ben said 20,000. That's probably right. And it was a smaller space than US Bank Stadium. But my goodness, it was crammed, packed with people. And you'll miss your first session. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, once you and also kind of on the sessions thing, make sure you download the AWS reInvent app to track your sessions of things, so you know where you're going every day. But yeah, like go right away to get your swag, because if you wait too long to grab your swag as well, chances are you might not get the size of hoodie or whatever that swag might be that they're handing out. Last year they had some nice water bottles and refill water bottles stations all over the place, which is really nice to be able to do that as you're walking around, because after you get checked in and planning your day, make sure you plan enough time to get from session to session, because there might be one session at the Mandalay Bay and the next session is at the Venetian. So as you're kind of game planning your sessions, give yourself an hour to get from place to place with the either walking or taking the buses.
I was
let me
going to
ask
say
this
the
question
same thing.
before you guys go too much farther. So you talked about registering for your sessions. Are they checking your badge to make sure you've signed up for the session before you walk in?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing though, like there was a handful of things that I wanted to go to that were sold out, but I wasn't able to, register for.
Yeah.
Then they have this walk-up line, right? So after everybody that was registered gets in, like 5 minutes before the session starts, they take walk-ins.
Okay.
So last year there was like I don't know, at least 2 or 3 sessions a day that I wasn't registered for that I was able to walk up to and get into.
Okay.
Plan a little bit more time for that because the walk-up line gets big. But you'll have a lot of success getting in, even if you didn't register.
If you wait
At least
patiently.
if you wait patiently and if you plan accordingly.
Okay.
The other thing is, like Ben was saying, I think they do a really good job of keeping similar sessions in the same general area, right?
Right.
So take that into account. Like if you're in the same hotel, you need 15 minutes to get from one room to the next, right? And you do actually need that 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But if you're going from one end of the strip to the other, you need that hour. There's shuttles. Take the shuttles. Don't try to walk it because you'll get distracted. It's Vegas.
Are there shiny lights and loud bells and things?
There's shiny lights. There's loud bells. There's, I don't know if you knew this, but they serve alcohol in Vegas. So like,
What?
Absolutely do not try to walk it from one end to the other, especially if you have impulse control issues.
Okay.
Get on the bus. You'll be fine. But yeah, try to plan your day in a single area if you can, right? Like they take all of the MGM conference rooms. They take all of the Venetian conference rooms. They take, like he was saying, Mandalay Bay. I don't know what they're doing today, but they had the Caesars Forum across from the Venetian, not Caesars Palace, but the Forum conference rooms.
The Wynn has sessions.
Yep.
Are the sessions, are they structured like where the speakers are speaking? Are they kind of lumped together by like interest or target audience? So you're not going to have to like crisscross over the entire Vegas landscape to go to your sessions.
I did that last year. But I didn't plan right. I had like 2 or 3 different kind of like areas of focus last year. For me, it was like quantum, and then there was a couple of serverless things.
Yep.
And then there was a couple of really cool company demos. And I literally had to go from like MGM to the Venetian to Wynn to Mandalay. And I was tired, like tired. So they do make an effort to keep some of the tech talks in the same spot. And I think, Ben, you can talk about the partner stuff. Like they keep the partner stuff kind of locally, like kind of all like localized around the Venetian. But the tech talks that I wanted to go to were kind of like all over the place.
Yeah, from the partner side, a lot of my sessions were either in the Venetian or Mandalay Bay. And yeah, I probably made some scheduling errors last year too when I was looking at it, because I didn't really realize when I was signing up and for all my sessions like where they were at. So I overbooked myself because I was thinking, oh, I'm going to a conference. I want to cram as much stuff in as I possibly can to make sure I'm getting, the best bang for my buck. And it wasn't the right thing to do. It's because going to conferences before, they were all smaller in one place, so you could just jam pack your day. So that's just kind of what I was accustomed to by going to the Microsoft ones or the Nintex or any other conference that we maybe go to. When I got to Vegas and realized that there were shuttles and all these things that I did not take into consideration, I had to scale back kind of, day by day and try to really pick out, once I kind of got a feel for how it was going, where I wanted to go. So that's why, we're doing this podcast, is to try to help guide everybody into, taking those breaks into consideration, that travel time into consideration, networking, all those types of things. And if you want to try to get into the expo, take some time to walk the expo during the day. There's a lot of really cool things, and connections and labs and things like that you can make just by walking the expo hall.
That's actually a really good point. The networking thing. So you run into so many people, like, even if you're kind of a hermit, you're going to run into so many people that you've worked with. If you've been doing this for more than a decade or two, you're going to run into a lot of people. I didn't take that in. I didn't realize that was going to be a big thing out there, but I'd run into people we're Twin Cities based, so I'd run into people from all of the big companies in the Twin Cities that I've worked with before. It doubled my time between sessions, because you'd bump into somebody and be like, oh, hey.
You're not going to blow them off.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I mean, and that's half the reason of going to these conferences is the networking. It's the education, the networking, the learning, the connecting, all those things to me are really important pieces of going to a conference.
Yeah. I think one of the things I remember from the recap you guys did was having goals going into it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good tip of thinking where do you want to concentrate your efforts? Because I think, to kind of Chad's point, he was all over the place. Think about maybe just concentrate on learning Gen AI at this conference. I think it's going to be a really, really big focus of this reInvent. And just kind of look at all those sessions, because then that might put you all in a general area. You might just be able to get some really focused time and learn that new technology versus trying to cherry pick 3 or 4 new things to learn. That might be a little bit harder to retain versus just a constant thing of just that 1 or 2 new things to check out.
I was going to ask that. You guys, Gen AI is obviously, I'm going to guess it's probably going to be the most populated topic of the conference, because it is the hot topic. Is there enough room? I mean, if you get signed up for all the things, are you going to be able to fill your day with Gen AI, or are you going to get 1 or 2 talks and everything is going to be full?
I bet you could fill a day with it. I mean, I didn't look at the schedule this year, but just knowing how they packed previous years, full of whatever relevant topics people are caring, people care about. It's absolutely going to be a full day for you.
Yeah, I agree too, because I was looking through some of the Gen AI sessions, and I think Amazon going into it knew that these were going to be pretty popular. So there's actually some repeat sessions that they have scheduled. So they'll do maybe one on Monday, and then the repeat is on Wednesday. So, you can take that into consideration. So don't feel like you're going to miss out on something. Look for those repeat sessions on some of these really hot button topics going into this year, and try to get signed up for some of those.
I went to I think it was 2012 or 2011. I went to the big SharePoint conference. And one of the things that I regretted after the conference was that I didn't take notes. There was so much information, and I have I don't want to brag or anything, but I have the best memory in the world. I have a decent memory, so I never really took notes or wrote things down that much, but there was so much information that I was like, there was nuggets of stuff that I just wish I had captured.
Yeah.
So
I would say going into your sessions, make sure you got a full laptop battery and a notebook for backup and your camera to take any pictures of slides that you maybe want to do. One thing that I did was try to take as many notes as I could on my laptop and then go back and then incorporate the pictures maybe back into my OneNote or something that kind of flowed. I would just write notes, see picture here, see picture from camera or something like that, just so that way that I didn't have to write everything down from that slide, but just kind of more of their talking point.
I would also say, so next time I go, not this year, the year after when I go, I'm going to avoid product announcements, right? Like, I don't necessarily need to hear any more from the RDS folks, right? RDS is kind of an AWS service commodity. Yeah. But it'd be great to hear about how they're going to do like new instance sizes and all that stuff. But like, you're not going to get much out of that. I'm bummed I'm missing out on the Gen AI stuff this year, because the best part about some of these things isn't necessarily the topic itself or the presentation itself. That's all great. But then you have access to those speakers immediately after they give their talk, right? And you can ask questions and you can actually interact with the people building the services that you're going to be using as consultants, right? So I would absolutely get yourself, prepare yourself to actually ask questions for each of these things, right? The presentations are online. You can watch those at home if you want to. If you didn't take notes, you can probably watch your presentation again the next day. Just mark off like whatever, like, oh, I zoned out for this thing here. I can watch it again at home. The ability to actually interact with the people that are building these things is absolutely huge. And you'll see that at the, Ben, what do they call it? The big, huge like vendor area. The
expo has an area where there's actually AWS employees that are doing experimental POC projects with using AWS services, and then they map out, they have pictures of their full architecture so you can see exactly how, not necessarily the code, but like the architecture behind some things. So like, for example, they had like a robot playing ping pong or something last year. They had a deal where you could walk up and do like a coffee machine, and you choose your like different things, and then they had like an AI system like mix all your things together, and you can get like a cool like Starbucks Frappuccino type of drink. They had a cocktail maker that they had everything tied up to a blender, and they had tubes going into the blender. You just push your buttons and it made your drink and blended it all up, and all you had to do is take the thing and put it in your cup. So there's so many different things in the expo lab that you can see outside of just all the ISV vendors and things that are there as well.
Really need to win the lottery because I want all of those things you just mentioned.
Well, they had there was two parts of the AWS presentation at the expo. There was that, which was like the AWS Maker Fair, right, where they actually encouraged their own engineers to use their services to build just weird projects, right?
Yeah.
And then they had another part of it where it was like a booth for every top level service that AWS provides, right? So like RDS had a booth, the SageMaker folks had a booth, and then the EC2 folks had a booth. And it actually had the engineers from those services, and like the engineers, the product owners, some of the managers that actually are responsible for those services at AWS sitting there available to ask questions, right? So, and then actually selfishly, these little cards where you could get free credits for that service, right? So like they'd give you a $25 credit for RDS, or a $25 credit for like anything, like SageMaker services, right?
Nice.
So that you could learn something there, and then you could go home and actually play around with it in a lab account that they provide for you.
And they have some
and
really
again,
cool demos there too, right, Chad? Like
Yeah.
you could go and you could actually like kind of do a little bit of hands-on type playing around with those services that are kind of specific to those individual boosts, like SageMaker or RDS or you know, Lambdas, whatever you're, you know, wanted to play around with.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things you could sign up for is like the hands-on labs. The hands-on labs I would highly encourage. Like I only did one of them, and I'm bummed that I only signed up for one of them because it was actually really, really cool. Like they actually had, again, AWS representatives come around and be like, "Do you understand what we're going for here?" And like, at first I'll be like, "Yeah, I got this. Of course I understand what's going on here. Like this is," and then I'll be like, "I honestly, like literally have no clue." And they just walk you through it step by step with practical examples of here's use cases, here's how other people have used this. And then you'd actually build something in an AWS console, and it was great. Yeah, there's I would say like if you've never been before, just prepare to be overwhelmed with options and information and sensory overload for sure. And also then I think one of the most important things, actively look for and sign up for the off hours events by vendors, right? So like,
well, yeah, can we put that on pause and come back to that in just a little bit, Chad?
we can, but I'm really excited about it. So I'm going to be thinking about it until the time we talk about it, because was amazing.
Because I want to get into some more of that, like the nighttime networking. But just kind of I just want to kind of point out a couple other things just from like the conference, like going to the sessions and keynotes and stuff like that before we get into there, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to just kind of touch on all the keynotes, because they have a keynote every morning. They start really early. And if you want to go to the keynotes, you have to be in line really early because thousands and thousands of people go to these keynotes live. Honestly, I went to one. It was cool. They had like a live DJ there for pre-entertainment, whatever, at 8 a.m. I think I got more out of it by watching the live streams of the keynotes in my hotel room. Because then I could try to plan my day out a little bit better, because all the keynotes might be at the Venetian, where my first session might be, you know, at a different location. You have just a flood of thousands of people coming out of these keynotes, and it gets kind of really hard to get around right away in the morning. So my recommendation, unless you truly need to be there in person, you can't ask questions at these keynotes anyways. So I would say watch the keynotes from your bedroom in your hotel, or have like a little watch party with coworkers at, you know, a lobby or something like that if you want to watch them with somebody else. And then just kind of go right from there to your first session. I think it'll kind of help streamline your day a little bit more.
So they live stream the keynote?
They do live stream the keynotes. Yep.
Practical.
Those are open to everybody, like the public, right? I mean, anybody can watch those.
Yeah. Yep. Anybody. Yep. So you can even sign up for a free account and watch the keynotes live from your office in Minneapolis if you want to, or your home, or wherever you are. But yeah, like I didn't necessarily need to go to them in person. I think they would have been just as impactful watching them from my hotel.
And practical purposes, right? You're in Vegas and you have a keynote across town at 8 a.m. and you might have had a wonderful night the night before.
Right.
Rest, like absolutely rest, especially for something that you can watch later. And that's going to give you information that you might already know, right? I will say again, the best part of a lot of these sessions is your access to the people presenting them afterwards.
100%.
I gave like, I'll use the quantum stuff as an example. Like I went through as much of the quantum computing sessions, like the AWS bracket stuff that I really just didn't have context for. And I wanted to actually have somebody walk me through it, because you read it on your own at home and you have your own opinions on what it's like. And to actually have one of their engineers walk you through it is great. And then to have access to that same engineer afterwards and say like, hey, you were talking about this. Is that what this means? Like that is the reason I want to go next year and the year after and the year after that, because of that one thing, right? The environment is great, the event is great, everything about it is awesome, but the ability to interact one-on-one with multiple AWS engineers throughout the day. And then the best part is you see these folks after at the end of the day, right? In the expo is this massive like ISV fair in the biggest ballroom in the biggest hotel in Vegas, right? And so it's just filled with vendors, like people, like all people we know, like Sumo Logic, JetBrains, all of the like Datadog, all the tools that we use, Peter, day to day in our environments. They all have massive presences in the expo, right? And then the AWS folks come to the expo after their presentations. And so you have this mix of like Datadog engineers that you can ask really good questions of, and then AWS engineers that you saw earlier that, hopefully you've asked questions to and you recognize them and you can talk to them. I was able to talk to Jeff Barr. Jeff Barr is like AWS's developer evangelist. I mean, if you look for him on Twitter, he's super popular. That's the reason to go, is to talk to these people one-on-one, get your own questions out there, and they can frame it for you in a way that, reading a blog post or their documentation doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's nearly impossible to buy that kind of contact otherwise throughout the rest of the year, right?
Yeah,
It's
that kind
priceless.
of contact isn't for sale. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of covers it a lot for a lot of like the sessions, tips and tricks and labs and getting to the expo and, all those types of things. And, like Chad was alluding to earlier, there's a lot of opportunity for networking events after the conference sessions are over each night. There's so many ISVs or different solutions partners putting on different events all over the city, and most of them are free to go to. So you just got to find where they are and try to get connected with people and get to those after hours, happy hours, and things like that, because the networking at those things are really fun. I made a lot of really good connections just attending random partner ISV, other partner events just all over the different parts of the city. Even Chad, they went to one, then got to watch some sumo wrestling last year. So that was cool that Sumo Logic put on. So it's like there's so many cool things that you can do once the conference day wraps up to continue your networking and things like that.
Yeah, I think the idea behind all those after hours parties is it just feels like every ISV that's throwing one, right? Because AWS, they throw their own big thing, right? And nobody's going to top that. It's in like this old, I don't even know what the heck it was. Like,
are you talking about
Circus
replay?
Park. Yeah, that thing,
Yeah,
right?
at the very end. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was.
We can talk about that later. That was
We'll
massive.
talk about that later. Yeah. But then all the other ISVs seem to be trying to one up each other. Like Sumo Logic rented out the Octagon in Caesars, and they put on sumo wrestling, and another group rented out the top floor of this other thing with there's a live DJ. The dude was very stubborn about playing Prince, and there was.
He didn't have the Minneapolis connection, huh?
Oh man, I was so annoyed. But there's so many opportunities to go to so many of these things, and you're going to bump into everybody that you just met that day at all of these things. I met engineers from some really, really cool tech companies here that I've gotten pings on LinkedIn about going this year again. And you'll make a lot of really, really, really good connections there. And it's like, don't not do it. Don't go to bed. That's my advice. Just don't go to bed at all. If you can avoid it.
It's Vegas. You only need 2 to 3 hours of sleep to survive there, right?
There's something about Vegas like that gives you that extra energy. It's weird. So, Chad, you talked about like not going to things for established technologies like RDS, things like that. How would you weight like the sessions, like, okay, this is the content, like, okay, generative AI is going to be big, machine learning, all that kind of stuff. And then cloud, like data, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you can get that information all these other different ways, would you avoid?
Yeah. Go to things that you're not familiar with, right? Like if there's a concept that you don't really have a grasp on. So that's why I did quantum last year. I didn't understand it at all. Like even reading all the information and all of the documentation that they have out there, it didn't stick with me at all. So if I were to do it, when I do it again, it's going to be that same thing, right? I might go to a couple of generative AI sessions, but I kind of know that stuff a little bit now, so I don't necessarily need to. I will look for all the stuff that AWS provides that I don't have context for, and I will go to those. And I don't know what that's going to be in 2 years, right? Because it's going to be completely different. But I mean, Kyle, we don't need to talk about. I mean, we don't need to go to a demo of a SQL database, right? Like,
right?
Oh, is it a SQL database? Can I connect to it? Is it in the cloud? Cool. That's all I need to know, man. If you guys are going to back it up differently, if you guys are going to scale it differently, if you're going to whatever, all that stuff is great. But it's a commodity that I don't necessarily need additional education on.
As a developer, you don't need more information about a SQL Server database, how it's being backed up, or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. So get in as many sessions for things that you don't know, and then ask questions. Again, ask questions afterwards. Find those people afterwards. Ask questions. Make an impression, a positive impression, hopefully, and they'll bump into you later. Like again at the expo, like AWS engineers, like that were working on their AWS bracket service, bumped into me at the expo later, and we talked more, and it was awesome. So do that. Don't go to something that I think like one of the things was there was one of our buddies went to like an AWS Lambda session, and they were talking about the new like cold boot strategy, which came down to, hey, if you check this box, it's going to cold boot faster, and you'll get it. Like your Lambda function will be available immediately, right? So an entire hour in Vegas at AWS reInvent wasted to find out that, hey, you can flip a switch now and you'll get this. That's cool. It's really cool. But man, your time out there you feel like you have forever.
It goes by fast.
It goes by so quick. And then also, like, don't fill your day with it, but watch some of the more interesting demos of other companies using AWS technology. I saw one. It was a company using GPS satellites and AWS's ground station service to track pirates, like actual literal pirates. Like you'll get some really cool context for services that you wouldn't get just by like reading, I don't know, Information Weekly or whatever the heck, right? I'm sorry, Ben. I was on.
I think they went out of business.
I think that's all really good information too, and I just kind of wanted to even talk a little bit more about kind of some of the extracurricular activities that because like this year they have like last year they had bags that you could go, you could play cornhole. I think they're having a 5K this year. If you're a runner and you want to do 5K, they have what's the other new sport?
Pickleball.
They have a pickleball tournament this year. So there's a lot of other fun things that you can do while you're out there and participate in, and then go to Replay and hang out. Replay is the very last like kind of closing ceremony. They got live bands in one big huge tent. They got like an adult games tent where you could do like archery tag or big huge slides and get cocktails and do a whole bunch of fun things. And they got live DJs in another big huge tent, and there's thousands and thousands of people. Like it's a pretty cool thing to go and experience Replay at the end and just see all the different things. It's like a big adult playground with concerts and music and all sorts of fun things to do.
Yeah. Was there a comma in between archery and tag, or is it archery tag?
No, it's archery tag. It's think of playing paintball.
I want to do that now.
Yeah, think of playing paintball, only you got like bow and arrows and you're trying to shoot people with like a big, huge like thing.
Do you remember Hunger Games?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that, but with nerds, right? Like there was only one winner.
Yeah.
Really.
Okay, we're doing
No,
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's
it
gonna be an event.
looked really fun. But I would say get there early if you want to try to do some of those things because the line was ridiculous. Like you could literally wait and waste an hour and a half standing in line to do some of these things versus, walking around and seeing more of the expo and just do whatever you want to do, obviously. But those are just a few tips and tricks. And if you're looking for drinks when you get to replay, try to go to the very back of the different big huge areas because they have bars set up all along the whole each side, and typically everybody just stops at the front of it and just hangs out there. But if you walk more in, you can usually get things a lot faster too. So there's a tip for you.
Yeah. I would say for replay, like I just remember the line to get in was like 45 minutes. It took us forever.
Yeah.
And Vegas gets a little chilly at that time of the night, so wear a coat.
For sure.
Let me think here. But don't spend too much time there. You're in Vegas, right? It's your last night in Vegas, and replay is awesome. It's pretty cool. Hang out for a little, get there early, hang out, get your drink, see a couple of the bands, and then
head to Fremont Street or something.
Head to Fremont Street, yes.
That brings up a question. Like, everybody realizes that AWS is in town, right? So are some of the venues or anything trying to grab your attention, or nothing specific? They Vegas the way Vegas does.
Yeah, I didn't remember seeing anything specific other than just like everybody's trying to do like these happy hours, after hours. Like, don't plan on eating or trying to grab a drink with a coworker or happy hour anywhere, which is like a one-on-one meeting with a friend if you're trying to meet up with somebody out there at any of the places that are remotely close to any of the hotels that are hosting, because all the partners and ISV partners, they book every single restaurant or bar in these places for their private events. So thinking you got to get creative and try to find some places maybe off the strip, or maybe like at the bar or whatever at one of the hotels that are not a part of the conference to grab a drink or something at and do some networking, because we ran into that where we were trying to go find a place for dinner and every restaurant like at the Venetian was booked for a private event, and then we would go down to the next hotel, every restaurant there was booked for a private event. So I mean we probably walked around for a good hour trying to find a restaurant just to grab dinner at one night. So just think about those types of logistical things too, of where and when you want to try to grab some food, and don't be afraid to get off the strip a little bit, just for like a Vegas tip, just for those types of things.
So I'll say, like, the Venetian for us, I think the Venetian was the main event for all of a reInvent, right? Like that was
it's the big place.
Yeah, once you got out of there, like Caesars was wide open, Bellagio was wide open, Cosmo was wide open, MGM was kind of busy. I would say the Venetian and MGM are kind of like the two anchors, but the other places, like if you're going to find drinks with friends, go to a place that doesn't have an AWS event. Right. And once you leave those spots, I've been to Vegas other times. Like we go for Chinese New Year most years, and it's not any busier in the middle of February than it was for reInvent. Right? Like there's no big convention happening, but as far as getting into restaurants, getting into bars that aren't at AWS Ground Zero thing, like Fremont Street, when we were there, wasn't any busier during reInvent than I had ever seen it before. I mean, it was probably busier during the last Chinese New Year that I went. It was not bad at all. Yeah. So, like, if you want to sit at the table, play some blackjack, maybe educate your friend on the right way to play blackjack, do that on Fremont Street, and you'll be fine.
Always split eights. Is that the
soft 16? Take a card. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say this year.
and to try to put a little bow on some tips and tricks, like think about stuff when you're packing. Vegas is dry. Like one of the things, I had to go to CVS. I had to get chapstick because I forgot how dry Vegas is, and just the hydration. Oh my God, it was like my lips were chapped in like a day. So like think about those types of things as you're packing to go out there. Bring comfortable shoes. You do a ton of walking.
Yeah.
And it's very casually dressed, which was a little bit of surprise to me from going to some of the other conferences that I had been to. A lot of more people are wearing their sport coats and more business casual, where reInvent is so big, so many people, so much walking. It's way more like jeans and t-shirt and a hoodie and sports shoes. So just dress appropriately. Maybe pack some nice clothes if you want to go to like happy hour or a nice dinner or something like that.
But be comfortable.
But be comfortable. That's the biggest thing.
How many miles would you guys say you walked?
Oh man.
Oh, I put on. I tracked it. I was at like 16 to 20 every day.
Okay, so a lot of steps.
A lot of steps.
Yeah. You're at 20,000s every day. You're walking so much.
Last time I went to Vegas, I did so much walking. I wish I had started doing more walking at home before the event, like going on walks twice a day, getting ready for it, because my feet were killing me, and it's just no fun when you're in pain.
Yeah, if you're a sedentary being like some of us have become, you kind of got to get back into go time shape.
And I will say, I mean, depending on your evening predilections, put down a nice base layer, right? There's a Chipotle right in the middle of everything. There's a Chipotle, have a burrito, get some carbs
Pasta's
in you.
Good. Yeah.
Yep. Just kind of load up a little bit.
You don't want to overdo it and be hungover the next day, because you're not gonna soak in the information. It's not gonna be helpful, and you're really there to do all that,
right?
To get all that out of it.
Or you'll potentially you'll oversleep, right? And then you'll run to an event, and you'll be the only guy that got there late, and you'll be sitting in the very front row, and then you might nod off and get called on, right? Like that could happen theoretically. So
that specific thing could happen.
Yeah, that very specific thing could happen. So I would absolutely say,
pace yourself.
Yep.
Well, you're there for a week. I mean, we got in on Sunday, which if you haven't booked your flight yet, I would recommend getting in on Sunday afternoon. It's just a little bit more of a chiller time to get in for the conference.
Yeah.
I think it really allowed us to get our badge at the hotel, get to the hotel, kind of get settled in, get our bearings of where everything is going to be at, where our hotel was relative to everything else. I mean, we stayed at the Paris because we registered a little late last year. But yeah, and then, do the whole week if you can, and enjoy your time. It's an awesome conference. It's a bummer not to be going this year for us. But
well, that brings up a good point. So if you can't go, maybe you can't, get over there. How do you still kind of go from afar? How do you attend remotely? Is there any kind of options or recordings or anything like that?
Yep, you can go out to the reInvent site and you can sign up for an on-demand free account.
I've done it.
Yep, and then you can watch the keynotes for free. Those will all be streamed live and recorded, and then any session that's recorded will be out. I think they try to get it out as quickly as possible, usually like about a day behind or so. Or maybe get together with a bunch of buddies and pick out a few sessions and watch them together and talk about them and learn as like a little community too. That would be a fun way to connect and learn and kind of do a remote reInvent day at the office or something.
Well, you get more of a social aspect of it, which is a big part of going to the conference. It's like, if you look at it as the sessions and the speakers, And
Yep.
like, well, I can just watch this from home. Why would I go? Well, that's like a third. Like a
Right.
third of it's that, a third of it's the networking and
Yep.
social stuff, and then a third is Vegas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like Chad, I mean, he alluded to it how many times, just the connections and connecting to those speakers and being able to ask questions live in those sessions, right then and there, and have that personal connection, I think is a huge part of being able to go to this conference or any conference in person, is to be able to get those connections.
Yeah, I looked through all of like the speakers and sessions and all that online, and there's so much
There's a lot.
there. There's so much I want to watch. Yeah.
You could spend probably 2 weeks going back and rewatching all the on-demand stuff and still probably feel like you haven't got enough out of it because there's just so much content.
Yeah.
So I don't
Awesome.
know. I mean, yeah, Chad, do you have anything else to add in? Any other last minute tips and tricks?
Pace yourself. It's a marathon. It's not 5 sprints. It's a big week. And don't plan anything the weekend you get home. Like nothing at all.
Oh yeah.
You'll have been busy and tired.
You will be
You'll be exhausted.
Yeah. But that's
even,
it. Pace yourself.
Yep. I think that's one of the biggest things. And yeah, don't be afraid to chill when you get home that Friday afternoon or whenever you get back from that week, and take a couple minutes to reconvene with yourself and family and everything, and just kind of chill out for a couple of days. You'll need it.
And
Those
that should
conferences
actually
are
tell
exhausting.
you something. I'm telling you to pace yourself. I'm going to pace myself next year, right? Like I never do that, but last year was so much, right? And when you go the next morning, even if it's not a keynote, there is a DJ at the Venetian right by where all the things are, right? So you're going to walk into that thing and you're going to hear this thump, 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 which is going to pace with the headache, right? It's just going to be like, it's a lot. So just expect an unpleasant morning if you do not pace yourself. Put down that base coat, pace yourself, stick around, ask questions of the speakers. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I'm really looking forward to watching some of these things online. So
yeah.
And I wish that I could listen to this before I went to like all the conferences I've been to. You know, it's really great to hear all this stuff laid out. A lot of great tips.
Yeah, a lot of lessons learned from last year.
Yeah.
So hopefully people can have a better conference this year after they check us out.
Yeah. Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Well, I think with that, we can shut her down and say goodbye, everybody. And if you're going to AWS, reInvent, have a great time.
And pace yourself. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
All right. See you guys.
Goodbye.
See ya.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.